I can't see. That should be as automatic.
Yes, yes,
Gotta start with a smile. Gotta start with a smile. All right, and we are live. All right, there we go. Hello, 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 and welcome. I know it's early, it's a Saturday, and y'all probably wondering what in the world are we doing here? Well, welcome to Midweek Mindset Take Two. My name is Michelle Anantua, co-owner of Harmony's Divine Design, where I work alongside the amazing T Weaver. At Harmony's Divine Design, we work with new and seasoned entrepreneurs, helping you guys get out of that stuck place. So we do that by offering one-on-one business coaching, online classes, and products and services to help streamline your workflow. And of course, we can't do a midweek mindset take two without my awesome co-host, Coach Kimberly James. Kim.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's early on a Saturday. My name is Kimberly James, and I am the owner of Josie May, and my clients pay me to bring their vision to life. I empower them through creativity, mindset transformation, and personal growth by offering digital and physical products that reflect our unique style, craft workshops to spark your creativity, 30-day challenges to expand your mind, and one-on-one coaching to help you achieve your goals. Good
Awesome.
morning.
Come on in. So, the reason that we're actually here is because we are recapping our July series. And if you are just joining us for the first time for Midweek Mindset, our July series was No More Playing Nice. So we were no longer playing nice with our businesses. We were showing up in that full CEO energy. And during the month of July, we were discussing exactly how does that look, right? You know, many of us are conditioned to that 9 to 5 mindset because let's be honest, that's all we know. So when it comes to the entrepreneurship, what exactly does that look like? What does that entail? How am I even know if I'm doing it quote unquote right? So for the series in July, we started looking at those habits, those blockages that really, I'm not going to say stops our growth, but it does stunt it a little bit, right? It puts a pause on the things that we want to do, that we're capable of doing, and creates some hesitation and some push and pull. So we're going to go ahead, dive in. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to recap our July series. Here we go. So, as I stated before, July's Midweek Mindset, our series was No More Playing Nice. We were really focused on tuning in and having a transformative moment in July, identifying those blockages within us, and not just identifying them, but making sure we're taking action steps to overcome and push forward. So, before we get started, we have to be honest with ourselves. All right. We have to admit that sometimes we're going to go through things that makes us uncomfortable. And we have to admit that we are actually indeed uncomfortable, right? So the the phrase here is you can't win the fight, you're too afraid to admit you're in. If you know you are struggling, if you're feeling that constant tug of war within yourself, you're in a fight. You're trying to figure out what your next step actually is supposed to look like. How how are you supposed to take those action steps? Right? Sometimes I joke with my mom and I'm like, why didn't you provide a manual on certain on certain things? You know, but really and truly it's experience. You know, you're going through experiences that some people may not have experienced before in your immediate circle. And it's a little hard, you know, but we are fighting our way trying to navigate to our visions, to our goals, because we know that there's something bigger and better inside. All right. So, quick recap of what we actually spoke about over the course of July. So, the very first session, we had to be real with ourselves. We had to talk about some of those habits that we have that stopped us from fully showing up to our business. So, the title of that was You Haven't Been Showing Up Like You Wanted. And we were talking about how we have full time prayers, full time wants, but we're only showing up part of the time. So if you missed that session, as with any of these sessions, you can find the replays over in Timeless Vision, and I'll drop that link a little later. Our next one was our business reality check. Um, we had to really sit down and understand what it meant to ghost our customers. And I remember during this particular session, um, it was pointed out how, you could create the product and you might send out an email, you might do a social media post, and then it's complete and utter silence. And I noted how that is actually ghosting your customers. Um, and even my co-host had a revelation.
I've been ghosting my clients and not even realizing it. Notorious. Notorious. Sorry. So sorry.
you know, and I love the fact that we had that realization during that mindset because very much like him, a lot of us don't even are not aware that we're doing that,
Mhm.
right? We think we completed the checklist and we did all the things, but we forgot about the follow-up part. We forgot about the engagement, the interaction, the continuous um, relationship building elements that go into it. So, yes, technically, we checked off, okay, I did the social media, I sent out that email, but then we forgot follow up in X amount of days, send a reminder email out. And I'm guilty as well. I'm like, listen, it's a lot.
We miss the whole nurturing our clients,
Hmm.
nurturing, the building of the relationships. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
So this is a judgment free zone. We're all learning. We're all learning.
Listen and
Right.
engage.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Then we followed that up with the infamous edge snatching session that everybody fussed at me about, which was visibility is a non negotiable. It's not a vibe. Within this message, we talked about we have to stop hiding. We have to, share our voice, our message, and make our presence known of exactly what it is that we're doing and how we are providing solutions to people. How are you showing up? What is the purpose of your business? If nobody knows that you exist, how can you expect for movement to happen? Right. So that one, it was a heavy hitter. It got some thoughts going, and that's what needed to happen because the thing about it is, if I was to sit here and just give you fluff, you can't grow with that.
Yeah.
We have to have those uncomfortable, quote unquote, uncomfortable conversations. And when I say an uncomfortable conversation, I mean a conversation that challenges us, that makes us have those moments where it's like, oh, wait, I, that kind of sound familiar. I think I've been doing that. you know, and when you can identify it, you can always rectify it.
Mhm.
All right. So today we're going into the ultimate truth. So we talked about not showing up and how we can fix that. We talked about changing that mindset from, being a hobby with our business and really showing up in that CEO energy. And we talked about, okay, now we have to speak up. CEOs, they present, right? They do presentations. They let you know exactly how their business is performing. So now we know our visibility is up. And at this point, it's literally you versus you, right? You can be in the room, you can hear all the right things, but how exactly are we confronting those real blockers? So, moment of transparency. The reason that we are actually doing a midweek mindset take two is because for our after hours, life came in and life. Okay. Um, and I'll be honest, I know personally that I didn't show up the way that I knew I could. Right. So Kim has been so gracious to join me this morning for the take two. And this leads into the engagement prompt that I have here really quick, where it states, what area of your life are you whispering in when you know it's time to roar? Well, for one, this right here is a roar for me, right? Some could say it's a touch of perfectionism. I'll agree. The hint of type A is there. But knowing that I did not deliver the way that I wanted to,
Mhm.
I could have very easily became discouraged. I could have said, okay, well, I'm not going to do it, whatever. What happens, what happens. But it did not sit right with me. That roar of, excuse me, this is bigger than you. The message needs to come out. The roar of saying, hey, listen, things happen. And Kim has even had to talk to me about it. Life happens, situation happens. It's okay. And my roaring moment right now is standing up saying, you know what? Yes, it is okay. But even with that being okay, I give myself grace with that moment. But now I'm showing up for you guys because y'all gonna get this message. So, Kim, how about you?
Okay, first I have to say that Wednesday's mindset was good. It showed us being us, authenticity. Life happens. We kept it rolling. I don't think that the participants felt any kind of way like they were shorted, but I do appreciate the fact that you are very conscientious and the powerful message that we or that you created for July didn't hit home and you wanted to make sure that it hit home. So that's why we're here today. So I love it. I appreciate it. You know, I'm type A too. So I get it. Okay. So what area so you asked me, what area of my life am I whispering?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the, I'm an introvert and I've talked about this a lot. I'm comfortable in the background. I don't mind being in the background. That's the comfort, that's my comfort space. But I know that I am being stretched to go in the forefront. That is uncomfortable. And that is where life is like, girl, if you don't keep your butt
Yes.
up and get, and opportunities have come up for me to do some amazing things. And I'm always one like, no, I'm comfortable back in the back. But I know that what I have is bigger than me. And it's about me shrinking and allowing God to increase. And that is the hardest part because it's that stretching. But I realize that if I don't stretch, if I don't expand, because I'm asking God to enlarge my territory. So I can't say enlarge my territory, but keep me right here in this little space. That it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work that way. So it's me realizing that everything happens for my good and I'm being stretched. It's what I asked for. And I have to learn how to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So that is, that where I'm like, okay, and we talked about this last year. I'm like, if God opens a door, I can at least open the door and peek in. So that's me peeking in and being able to stretch myself. So that's I know it's time to roar, but the little girl in me is still a little insecure about some stuff. But I'm definitely a work in progress. So that's where I'm working to do it anyway. So I'm doing it anyway, and it's uncomfortable.
It
It's uncomfortable.
is.
It's uncomfortable. But you know what? Anyone who is going to the next level, it's going to be uncomfortable. And everybody's
Absolutely.
done it. Anybody successful, they've done it, but they do it anyway. They continue to show up and do it even though they're uncomfortable, even though they're scared. You take those fears with you, strap them in the back seat, and just hit the gas.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm doing. I haven't hit the gas full throttle, but my foot is on the gas.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad it's there, you know. But like you said, yeah, this growth is uncomfortable. It challenges you, as you said, the little girl in you, right? That little person in you that you did keep quiet in certain situations, or you was like, oh no, I'm not going to deal with. It's still very much a part of you.
Mhm.
And a lot of those whispers are coming from the inner child, that younger version of yourself that's like, wait a minute, you remember you said we were going to be XYZ when we grow up?
Mhm.
We're being XYZ, like, hello, type of thing. And I feel it as well. So I totally get it. Totally get it. All right. So what are we're going to sit and discuss really quickly the 5 hidden narratives that are blocking our success. These are the things that we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and they show up in ways that sometimes we really don't even think that it's that we have become accustomed to acting a certain way or being this certain way for so long, not realizing that some of those behaviors are because of procrastination,
Mhm.
because of quote unquote perfectionism, right? Comparison, chaos, doubt, you know, those limited beliefs that we have literally manifest into habits and ways that we operate, you know. For instance, with procrastination, I've been guilty of that. It's still something that I'm working through. Um, but I've realized that my procrastination has come because of being over prepared. Like it's just the way that I've been programmed, because an expectation of, well, the shoe's always going to drop type of thing. So I need to make sure I have everything together. Or I know some if something's going so smoothly, I know something unexpected is going to happen, so let me get everything together, and before I know it, I've gotten all the things, but I have yet to take a step. you know so we're going to talk about how that's showing up in your actions and all of our actions, really. And then with the perfectionism, I'm listen, guilty.
It's amazing that we actually do mindset every week because we're both perfectionists.
That part. But
And
you
it
know what?
actually,
I Go ahead, go.
no, I said that it actually gets done weekly for almost
That
a
part.
year.
I know. I
Yeah.
know, right? But you know what? I think what really caters to that is because we are, very much aware of how each other works,
Mhm.
right? We know we have to have our list, we have to operate a certain way, we got to chat, we got to tap in, and like you said, doing this for about a year now, we kind of got our rhythm going. And even though both of us are quote unquote perfectionists, one thing that I love is both of us, you know, from the very first time we opened up the Mindset Zoom, we brought our fear, our anxiety, our authenticity to each other. Like, girl, are you sure about this? You sure about this? But we made sure to hit that button. And thankfully, we have been hitting it every week since, right? But yeah, that perfectionism, we get it. We
Yeah.
get it. All right. And then that comparison. So that timeline, right? I was supposed to accomplish XYZ by this age. I was supposed to do XYZ by that age. Really and truly, it's all grand design. It's all grand design. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more. Then we have chaos. So comfort and distraction, blocking intentions. You know, some people are comfortable with everything swirling around. So we're going to talk about how we can calm those storms down to focus. And lastly, we have doubt. So, am I worthy of my vision? I know I have even had that, like, God, am I really? Are you sure? This is my path. Like this, and I mean, I know if God is anything like my father, pop me upside the back of my head. Like, girl, are you really asking me this question? But we're human. We all got our little things about it. All right. So these aren't just habits, they're hidden narratives controlling our story. So we're gonna talk about how we can tell these narratives to be quiet real quick. Right. So the first one is procrastination. How does that show up? Well, waiting for the perfect moment to arrive, not taking action. Like, oh, I'll do it this week. Oh, I'll do it next week. Oh, I can't do it because I need this to happen. I can't. There's really no quote unquote perfect timing.
Mhm.
It reminds me of playing double dutch. You just gotta find your rhythm and jump, you know. there there's really no way. And it's a skill that you have to do over and over and over again until you become good at it. There's no secret formula to say, oh, you're doing this completely right or completely wrong. We're all navigating and trying to figure it out. Another way procrastination shows up is overthinking. You have thought out you are literally Google Maps of everything you do. You have planned out every turn, what it should look like. And again, you haven't moved, right? We have to start taking those actions. We can have the most amazing plan. But again, as it says here as the last bullet point, if we're still planning and we're not executing, that's just like a tire rotation. We're just spinning our wheels, you
Mhm.
know? So procrastination is fear dressed up as preparation. I don't know what just dinged, but that was confirmation.
Definitely.
That was so for us to discuss real quick. The coach prompt here is, what are you protecting yourself from by waiting?
That's, you know, for me, procrastination shows up as something that's on my list to do that I really don't want to do. But at the end of the day, it takes away the anxiety, and it really wasn't that bad. I mean, think about every time that there's something that you really don't want to do, you kind of procrastinate, you put it off, and it's either going to snowball that it used to be, a baseball, and now it is a full grown tire coming at you. It's going to show up like that, or once you finally do it, you're like, oh my God, it really wasn't that big of a deal. So, what are you protecting yourself from? Nothing, because you still have to do the thing. Whatever you're putting off, you're going to have to deal with it. So that's like if it's a bill that you know that you have to pay, you can either pay it now or wait until they start adding the late fees or the collection notices, but you have to pay it. So it's either that or it's something that's on your list that you know that you need to do to complete, but you choose not to do it. So what are you protecting yourself from? Nothing. You still got to do the thing.
It's true.
And once you do it, it's probably not that big a deal. I know there have been some tasks on my list. I'm like, oh my God, that's just going to take long. I don't really want to do that. And then when I finally do it, I'm like, okay, well, that didn't take me long at all. And I could have knocked it out.
A whole X amount ago. Yep. Guilty. Guilty as well. I think because we really make things out in our mind to be so much bigger at times than what they really are.
Mhm,
And that's literally because of just fear,
mhm,
right? You know, not knowing for some people is the scariest thing. Feeling that you don't have a control over certain situations because of maybe certain experience that you've had in the past and things like that. You know, all these things are literally predecessors to instances that we've experienced. They're accumulation of those suppressed moments of, you know, not necessarily saying how we feel when those emotions were originally stirred. So
mhm,
we've gotten into that, redundant habit of suppressing, suppressing, suppressing. Anytime we feel that way, we suppress and then we react. But what would it look like if you actually confronted those moments, right? So when it comes to procrastination, when you've created those products and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's perfect, it's good, let's go. Where do you stop it? Why do you stop? Why don't you find and identify where that disconnect is that pushes you further? So say for instance, listing your product. What's the disconnect there? Is there a disconnect? Why aren't you talking about it? Why aren't you moving it? You know, so even though we use the fancy terms like procrastination and things like that, sometimes I think we use these words just to make it kind of look pretty and sound good, you know, without really digging into the actual nucleus of what it is we're dealing with.
mhm.
So yeah, I've been guilty of this too.
I think we all have. I mean, you've put out, we've talked about how we're creators, we're digital creators. We created a number of things, but they're still on our computer. So, and a lot of times the items are complete. It's just about releasing them. So it's what's holding you back from releasing. I know for me, I move on to the next shiny thing. I'm notorious for that. Notorious. It's not about not releasing it. It's just, something happens that you go down a different rabbit hole, a different direction, and you just don't release it, or you miss your window of opportunity. So, I created a ton of stuff for, Halloween last year and never released it. Well, when I finally was just like, oh, let me release it, it was already October 15th. Well, sweetie, that's really too late. So that stuff will be released this year. But it's that, kind of procrastination where you want to
Hmm.
constantly make things better, make it better. But at
Hmm.
some point, you just have to release what you've created.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And really and truly, that's taking that leap of faith on you,
Mhm.
right? And at times, even that in itself can be a little uncomfortable. But when you make that move, even when it's messy, even when you know everything isn't the way you want it to be, that sense of accomplishment of releasing it and getting it out there is a feeling that, yes, it takes the anxiety and all of that with it, but the relief and the sense of, oh wow, I did it,
Mhm.
that outweighs procrastination any day. At
Yeah.
least I know for me it does. Next, the lovely word perfectionism. So it was funny when Kim and I were were going over the presentation. She goes, re-recording content. I said, yeah, but endlessly. I'm re-recording this to get it out. But if you are constantly redoing, and again, not releasing, that's what we're talking about. That's where that frustration comes in. A lot of times people don't release things because we're fear of other people's opinions. We are a little intimidated if somebody might say something negative about something that we created. And I know Kim loves to quote Erica Badu. She's sensitive about her stuff. These are our babies we putting out here to the world. So it's understandable that you might feel that sense of, oh, someone may not like it. But I challenge that thought and I ask you, why are we so concerned about the one person that may not like it when there's about 50 other people that may just completely love it and feel as though it's the absolute best thing, the thing that they've been looking for that you created?
Mhm.
We have to start challenging our mindsets, because it's very easy for us to find the bad, right? The things that made us in our feels and things like it's but I challenge you to find the positive in it, because there's duality in everything,
Mhm.
right? So identify why you have that fear. Identify why you might feel a little intimidated when it comes to putting your stuff out there. And then once you find that reason why, I want you to flip it. So I want you to look at turning it into a positive, changing that narrative in your head and saying, okay, some people might not like it, but that's okay.
Mhm.
I'm not for everybody, and I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
So let's start reshifting how we're talking to ourselves. And lastly, we have never feeling ready enough. So we can do it, do it, do it, do it. But again, we're not moving. Again, all the things, we're doing all the things,
Mhm.
but not producing. All right. So the truth is, you're afraid of your truth won't be enough. But hint, hint, you're more than enough. And even with me, I have to remind myself, because there's rough days, but you are more than enough. So our question for this one is, Kim,
Yes,
who
ma'am.
taught who taught you that flaws cancel impact?
I think it was something I taught myself. We touched on
Mhm.
this, offline. I'm dyslexic, and growing up dyslexic, you completely learn different. And if you're not careful, those mistakes and those issues, other people can see it. No one wants other people to know that you have a learning disability, but I do learn differently. So because of that, I know I'm constantly checking, double checking, making sure that everything is perfect so that people don't see the flaws. And, I was an accountant for 30 years. Numbers were constantly transposed, but that was the one thing I had to learn how to, make sure that it was done right and then double check it to make sure that it was really done
Really
right.
don't.
A lot
Right.
of times, I double and triple check my work. But it's not so debilitating anymore because I've learned what my disability is. I've learned how to work within, you know, um, my how I learn. So it's not that bad, but I taught myself, and it was, and I think that kind of snowballed into that kind of perfectionism where you want to make sure that it's right because you want to make sure that other people can't see your flaws.
Oh yeah.
That it's not something that you want everybody to know, but it is there. So me, I taught me, I taught me.
I love that. I love that. And as you said, we did touch on this briefly before we came on. And for me, it was growing up with the mindset of always being on ready, right? Always making sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. You always got to make sure that this is this way, this is that way. And it comes from my dad. He's a vet. And so certain things, especially when it came to discipline, and structure, he was very meticulous about, and he instilled certain things and values inside of me that I always, again, very much like Kim, I'm always rechecking and rechecking and rechecking and rechecking because, you don't really want, you don't want the back and forth. So you want to get it done right the first time type of thing. And, you know, that manifested in me because again, I was reworking things that I already completed because I started second guessing myself. I started feeling that maybe, this wasn't right, it wasn't enough. I could add, I could always change, I could always adjust. And I think by having that, mindset, it really has blocked me from taking action in different parts of my life prior to this, because I wasn't moving. So I want you guys out there to even think about, me and Kim are talking about these questions, but I want you to take a minute and think about them on your end too. Start identifying how you actually even gathered certain beliefs of yourself and question, are they actually yours? Or are these someone else's beliefs that you made your truth?
That's good.
Okay. So next we have comparison. So comparison shows up when we're constantly looking for some sort of validation. We're constantly looking for that good job moment, to see that, oh, well, I'm that moment of acceptance. Um, it can show up when it comes to your social media, looking how many likes you have, what is the engagement, and you're looking for it more so to internalize rather than to grow from, right? And how does that look? Well, from a CEO's perspective, when we're looking at our likes, our engagements, our analytics of how we're performing, we're looking at what works well, what we can, rinse and repeat, and what can we cut that may not have been as effective. That's from a CEO mindset. From a comparison mindset, it is okay. Well, I did it just like they said I should do it, and I put it out just like. What are people saying about it? How is it being liked? Are they paying it attention? And you kind of start growing into this kind of like spiral, really and truly, you know, when really the work that you created may actually look better than the person's that you're judging yourself on, right? Another way it shows up is mimicking other strategies. So you see that a person may operate a certain way, do a certain thing, say a certain way, and you're like, okay, well, let me mimic that. But really, you're not authentically being yourself because the way that I may present or the way that Kim may present information, it works for us for certain reasons. Like Kim noted just a moment ago, she has dyslexia. So the way that she has to do certain things is a method for her. The way that I present, it works for me. So when it comes to trying to mimic someone, it's best to create your own standard. Stand on your truth, you know. Really and truly, don't worry about how I do something. Worry about the value that I'm providing to you. Okay. And the lastly is shrinking yourself. Guilty. We shrink ourselves because we want to fit in. Because sometimes if we don't want to necessarily be the odd man out, so to speak, right? Especially when I think of younger years of like grade school and things like that. We all want friends, we all want to be included. So we naturally just start comparison. Oh, who's the little girl that gets the most attention? Who's the little boy that gets the most attention? How do they act? Do I have to act like that too? So it starts young.
Mhm.
But I'd much rather, I've always been the little kid on the playground where I didn't want to follow the crowd. I always went to my own drama. you know, and I actually liked being around the kids that, kind of felt that way because they were brilliant. They were a brilliant group. And I love to call, when I think of that, I think of AI Fusion or Mod Podge of of everyone, all brilliant in our own way, all unique and just beautifully, just authentically showing up as ourselves.
Mhm.
So it's interesting to see those dynamics even as, we become quote unquote adults, right? Because we still all hold certain things. So the truth for this is comparison disconnects you from your divine design. And that was not an intentional play on words.
But it worked.
So, Kim, you want to add anything here?
Yeah, I do a little bit. Okay, so for me, I think that it's really important, and I know I've said this before, to stay in your own lane. It is great to look to see what other people are doing for inspiration, but you are not that person. Everybody has their own journey. So I always say I stay in my lane because there's no potholes, there's no traffic, and there's no accidents. I look to see for what other people are doing for inspiration, and then I may pull different aspects from that, but I don't try to be anybody else. I am uniquely me, and I can't be like anybody else. And the only way that I can continue to show up is to show up like myself. And sometimes you have to just kind of take a pause and try to figure out who are you. And I know, for me, it defining who I was, um, definitely a shift once your kid, a grown son, once he was out of the house, because for so many years I was David's mom. So then, it's like, okay, who am I? And you really have to identify with who you are and figure out, how am I going to show up for myself? So that's when that my play on the comparison, because so many times, you're so much for everybody else. Who are you for yourself? And then I think that once you figure that out and figure out what your likes are and what your dislikes are, especially in this entrepreneurship, this is a lot.
Oh, yes.
It's so much easier working for somebody else. So much easier working for somebody else. But learn from other places, but stay in your lane. That's what I say about the comparison. You know, figure out who you are and who you want to serve. Allow those divine downloads to be your inspiration to do more, and to make an impact in somebody else's life. That's
Absolutely. That's it. Just a little mic drop season, That's all.
it.
I love it. I love it. All right, next we have chaos. So it says this organization here, but my favorite term when I know things are going wonky in my life, I am discombobulated. I will tell, I'm like, listen, things are upside down. It's too much because, and when I'm in those seasons, I know I am because the first sign my body shows me is my anxiety. It will start acting up because, again, going back to that quote unquote type A personality, I don't have the control at the moment. I can't literally, wiggle my fairy godmother wand and be like bippity boppity boo, it's all fixed now. And what causes this is one thing is no systems and no schedule. I am someone that I used to say I couldn't stand routine, but having a routine is so important in just the simple task of organizing you. Because sometimes we're in chaotic situations and we can't control everything that's blowing around us right in that moment. But one thing that we can hone in on is ourselves. So you have to start being responsible for you. You have to start making those schedules. You have to start making those routines. I might not necessarily like them, but it keeps my mind flowing, meaning it's not as overwhelming when I have things in order. You know, when things are out of order, I feel scattered. I feel like I am literally grasping at straws, just trying to figure out the right thing. When I start applying that structure, things start changing. You know, that season or feeling of playing catch up, meaning that no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to get a hold of. Well, when I start creating action steps and actual lists for me to complete, and I actually do it, it eases that chaos feeling, it eases that anxiety feeling. Another way to identify that you're in a state of chaos is everything feels urgent. It's like not, it could be the fact that the mailman just showed up at the door, but you feel like you have to run to that door at that moment to go get it. When really you could wait about 5-10 minutes, finish making your cup of tea or or whatever it is you're doing, and breathe. Because one thing that I've learned in chaos, when I can't control anything else, I can control my breath. I can take a moment and just be like, okay, everybody is doing this. Ooh, all right. Because if I'm in a state of chaos as well, how am I going to be productive? How am I going to positively impact the situation? You know? So the question here is, what would having structure force you to stop tolerating? Ugh.
Okay, so before I answer that question, I'm just going to say that, life's, and even the most organized A type personality, when life's monkey wrenches start throwing you curveballs that you can't duck from, it disrupts a lot.
Oh, yes.
So my first quarter was nothing but disruption after disruption after disruption, and that I could not control. Having an A personality is incredibly difficult. So it's like Michelle said, it's about taking a moment, and the one thing that you can control is your breath. I had to take a pause for a while because stuff just kept happening that was out of my control. But what I could control was my breath. What I could control was how I choose to show up in the midst of storms. And that's key. Now, what would having structure force you to stop tolerating? One thing that because I do custom products, um,
Mm-hmm.
I do certain things on certain days. A client who comes at the last minute, you're not going to disrupt my schedule because I have a schedule. So I design on Monday and Tuesday, I cut and print on Wednesday, I press on Thursday, deliveries are on Friday. If you contact me outside of that, you want something urgent, there's going to be an extra fee for that. So me having that structure definitely allows me to provide my clients with the best service because I'm not going to allow outside things to change that routine. So that's the one big structure that I have with the physical products. Because if not, every time you get a call for something, you want to try to, fit it in. Nope, my lead time is 2 weeks out. So if you call me on a Wednesday, I'm not starting your order until Monday of the following week, even if I have time, because then if you're constantly breaking the schedule, then I don't have time to do other things. I enjoy doing other things. I enjoy doing mindset. So if I have somebody who comes with an urgent order, guess what? I may not be able to show up, for mindset. So there are a lot of other things that I enjoy doing. So that's why I have a schedule for that. So um, if I didn't have that schedule, I would be all over the place. So,
I love it. I love it. And and you know what? That goes with putting up a boundary and sticking to it,
mm,
right? Um, I know for me, when I am in those moments of life and doing its thing, you know, I have to put up a boundary of I need time to just be.
mm,
And whether that is sitting outside or going for a walk, or I have to make sure that I'm checking in with me.
mm,
And that's a priority for me because there's been times where I've gone through so many stressors of life and things like that. And I was showing up and tending to everyone else, but I didn't have that structure of asking Michelle, hey, how are you feeling? You know, how are you doing in this moment? And now, you know, sometimes I even forget to do it, but being that, you know, I have instilled it in my mind as this is a practice that I'm going to do. This is that check-in I'm going to take. It allowed me to stop tolerating, you know, a lot of the pull
mm,
of, you know, of wanting my attention and needing my attention when sometimes y'all really don't need my attention.
mm,
You don't. You know, you could take a moment and you could breathe and just like you would call me to figure something out, you could do the same, you know. But it's also one of those things where I had to once again create that boundary of saying, okay, I'm not going to show up as everything to everybody because I cannot do it. And when I made that decision, a lot of the things that would push and pull me and tug on me, they started falling away
mm,
because I wasn't allowing it anymore, you know? So it allowed me to stop tolerating that. I call it the elf on the shelf syndrome. Oh, I don't need you right now. Oh, but I need you now. Oh, but I no. This is what I'm going to need for you not to do. Right? So, when you create that structure, when you create those boundaries, stick to them, even when it's hard, even when it feels uncomfortable, because you're providing yourself space to grow. So structure supports my success and I allow it with ease. So absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And we are headed to the finish line because we are at blockage number 5 and we are talking about doubt and imposter syndrome. Um, all of these I can say I have been guilty of in some form or fashion. It's shown up in our life.
mm,
Um, but doubt and imposter syndrome. So, what exactly does it look like when it comes up? Well, first is second guessing yourself, feeling that you are not worthy. Let me say, you are plus some, plus some, plus some with some commas and zeros, right? You are worthy of going for your dreams, going for your goals and your actions. You're worthy of having the vision that you have of leaving the legacy behind that you feel you should, right? And I know sometimes it's hard for us to see that. But again, a lot of these things, it starts internally. We have to start positively feeding this stuff to ourselves. You know, start cutting out that negative talk of I can't. That is one term that I personally choose to remove from my vocabulary. And when I say it, my kids even look at me like, "Oh, you did what, mom?" I'm like, "Okay, let me restructure." But I love it because, you know, we need to be accountable of how we talk to ourselves and what mindsets and opinions we choose to take on as our own and validate as truth. Okay. Next is underpricing yourself. So you feel as though you're not, necessarily on a particular person's level because there you go with the comparison. So you underprice your worth with your company. No, 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 no. If you were to go into your company's review and they said, and you asked for a promotion or a raise, and they're like, oh, well, we can't give it to you because of X, Y, Z. I can guarantee you can pull out a list of everything that you did that year that was not in your pay grade, right? It was above said pay grade, you
And
know. So the thing about it is if you can identify your worth in your 9 to 5, identify your worth for your legacy. Okay. Stop underpricing yourself. If you created a program that is worth $200-300 because you know you didn't put the bells, the whistles, the trumpet, the whole orchestra into your product, then act like it. Act like it. As parents used to say, when you go out in these streets, you represent me. Well, when you release one of these products, they represent you. How are you representing yourself? What does that look like? All right. And then lastly, I'm super guilty, but I will step on my own toe with this one. Hiding in plain sight. As Ken said, we're introverts. We cool with being in the background. We ain't gotta have a spot.
don't want it, don't like it.
But we also know that hiding in plain sight does not get you to have those conversations of opportunity. Hiding in plain sight does not get you to move forward with your business the way that you need to and the way that you should. So we have to own our space. We have to own and take up the space of the room that we're in, whether it's a virtual one or a physical one, because our presence should not. My thing is this: when you walk into a room, people should remember you. I don't even care if they just remember you for the shoes that you wore that day. But every time you walk into a room, walking with the mindset of, I'm going to make an impact. My presence alone is impactful. My presence alone is engaging. My presence alone is worthy of standing here. I may not necessarily say everything, and I may not have the best icebreaker or conversation starter. But one thing that I do know is I can do what I used to do in school. Hi, my name is Michelle. What's yours? You got to start speaking. We got to start moving. All right. So, our question is, what version of you are you still waiting for permission to be?
That's a good question. And you know, this is on topic, but kind of not really on topic. I my prayer is always that God, that I become the woman that God designed me to be. So that is who I'm waiting for permission to be. So I know that He's working for my good. So that's the version that I'm, waiting to become. And I don't know that I need permission for her. I just know that He's working on me. So yeah, I do have doubt. There are imposter syndrome. So it's kind of on topic, off topic. But this also goes back to when you talked about trying to fit into other boxes. This whole thing is you trying to fit into someone else's box. That doubt and that imposter syndrome. Why are you trying to shrink? Why are you shrinking yourself? But yeah, for me, it's just I'm expanding and I'm waiting to see how He expands my territory. So I know that didn't kind of answer your question, but that's the version that I'm waiting for permission on.
Hmm, I like that. So, for okay, so of course, Coach Hat comes on
I saw that. I'm like, there's that coach hat.
because I'm trying. I was trying. I was trying. But you said it within your sentence, and then you counteracted it at the end again.
Hmm.
Within your statement, you said you do not need permission to be her.
Hmm.
But then you wrapped up and said you're still waiting for permission to be her.
I am waiting for God to tell me how to move.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
I have visions of what he wants me to do, but it's not time yet. So I'm in the building stages. So, you know,
Gotcha.
I'm not waiting for someone else to give me permission. I'm truly allowing him to order my steps. So that's the difference between me, say, a year ago, where I would have been waiting for someone else to validate and give me permission to do something.
Right.
Now I'm like, I'm going to the source. So,
I know that's right.
so that's the difference. So, for me, it's, yeah, I still have doubt. We talked about this, earlier. I'm being stretched to do some things that I've never done before. It's uncomfortable, yeah, but I'm not waiting for someone else to give me that permission. So,
I love that. I love that. I am actually giving myself permission um to be that version of me that I hid away for so long.
mm, that's good.
I am giving her permission to show and shine, right? And in doing so, it challenges it. Of course, anytime when you're like, okay, I'm allowing myself to be, or whatever your proclamation is over yourself, it starts it's kind of like an unlock key. Like you start remembering certain things from your past that we don't realize. Not only do we suppress bad things, but we suppress good things too.
Mhm.
you know um Case in point, one of the things that I had completely forgot about was my favorite childhood toy. And Kim, I think you and we talked about this, which was the skip it. Like, I genuinely just want to skip it. It. That's it.
Literally and physically.
Yes, I literally just want. I'm gonna give myself a skip it. But the reason that I do that, you know, is because I can go back in my mind and recall when I would literally play with this toy as a child, the sheer simple joy I literally just had skipping. Not because I was doing it in competition, not because, it was something, it was literally just my time, just bouncing up and down, just happy. I can even remember hearing the clacks of my barrettes, you know, and when I started giving myself permission to show up as me, that hidden version of me. Well, that hidden version, she was the girl that liked to skip it. She was the girl that, played with the Barbies and used her imagination and, all these things. And as we grow up and responsibilities and everything comes in, of course, those parts we kind of just tuck away. But you know, at this point in my life, as I just celebrated, coming into a new year, I'm like, why am I compartmentalizing myself? Why am I putting myself in a storage container with with certain things? And I'm like, listen, I know me. My personality is big and it's bold. I stay quiet a lot, but when we're in person, I'm a listen. I get to come outside of my literal box, right? Um, and it's important to even in my business to bring those elements with me as well. You know, I remember at a 9 to 5, one of my coworkers told me, she said, Michelle, you better never ever do anything. I said, wow, what? I was minding my business. I was in my cubicle. But I had giggled. She said, you better never do anything. She said, because your laugh gives you away every time. I'm like, okay. You know, but being comfortable with those elements of yourself will, uh, it will challenge a lot of the negativity you feel. So if you're like me, go get a skip it or a hula hoop or a jump rope. But get something that helps pull back those core memories of who you are, remembering who you are. Right?
And if you're older like me, get a journal.
Well, that too. Put a skip
Like,
it on the front or a hula hoop on the front.
well, I can do the hula hoop because I can stand, still with, but the skip it, the rope. There's a 20-year difference between our age.
I still love you, Kim.
Like, yeah, those days are over with the skip. But I can journal about it.
There you go. I love it. I love it. All right. So, truth time. Name it and let's shift it. So, with everything that we discussed, I want you guys to take Lord, a moment, and identify exactly which block that we covered today, might be showing up loudly for you right now. I want you to write it down because I want you to put your truth on it. Break the silence that you keep holding on to. Break that muckiness up. Okay. Because once you identify it, there's ways that you can, again, rectify it, right? But first, we have to start talking about those uncomfortable truths inside. All right. And then after that, we're going to declare it. So, what truth are you ready to walk into starting today? So we identify what block is running the show and saying, hey, listen, you don't have to take a back seat. And then, because remember, we have to finish our actions. We have to bring everything full circle. So when we take something away, we want to add a positive to it. So, what positive truths are you ready to start walking in today? Are you ready to move into today? Right? So, that's one of the challenges that I have for you today. And we are at the end of the presentation, and I just wanted to note that the first breakthrough isn't external, it's when we stop lying to ourselves. We lie to ourselves to make it seem okay or be comfortable. We got to stop that, right? Because it's you versus you. You versus you. It's a battle at times, but the growth that comes with it, that comes from it, and what you can blossom into is is beyond anything else I can imagine. All right. So take one action that scares you, but aligns with your next level, and think about how you can push through it. And if you need to, go to Chatty for some ideas. I know I do. Because sometimes we need that extra assistance to help us, work it out in our minds. So go to Chatty, type into Chatty what is coming to you from this presentation. So that is it. That is all I have for y'all. um, and I am going to go ahead and kick it over to Kim because I know she has her journal. Ma'am.
Oh, hang on. Oh, please. Guess I should have been prepared. Okay. Let me share my screen. I can't share my screen.
Oh, I saw it. I saw it. All right, you should be good to go.
Mhm. All right. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Mom, can I have the tablet?
Okay. So it's you versus you. So what you gonna do? Here's a welcome letter. Real life reflection. Old Tasha versus CEO Tasha. How to stop negotiating with yourself. Yourself. Um, Action plan. Day one, a mirror check. Day two, what's my excuse today? Day three, let the lies go. Day four, radical ownership. Day five, recommit to the vision. Day six, decide, then do. Day seven, you versus you. Who wins? Journal pages, little information about my business, and then communities that I recommend. Check out Timeless Vision. Um, I want to touch on how to stop negotiating with yourself. Call yourself out in love and not shame. Give yourself grace. You know, we are harder on ourselves than we are to our best friend. So when you're going through something, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. You give her grace, why not give yourself grace? Stop entertaining the same excuses. Just her fear is just data. Use it as inspiration so that you can pivot to the next thing. Use the 5 second rule, which means you start five, four, three, four, four, three, two, one. That dyslexia. Five, four, three, two, one. And then do the thing, even though you have anxiety. Cut the maybes and the shoulds. Instead of starting those, it's about mindset. It's truly about mindset. If you start out with maybe or I can't, then you're probably not going to be able to. So reframe how you talk to yourself. Write your non negotiables. That's important. I mean, and lead like your future depends on it. Your future, her, she's dependent on you. And we can't continue to stay in the same place because then 2025, we're almost done with 2025. We're in third quarter. So if you have the same thing that you're doing and you continue to do the same thing, 2026 is going to come. You get the same stuff. 2027, 2028, we should be moving forward. So even if you're taking baby steps, make a step in the right direction. So that's all I got.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. This is really good. This series overall was quite impactful. It really, really was. I enjoyed doing this series. I hope that everyone that joined us over the month of July um, was able to get value from what we discussed. But yeah, that is it. That is all I got for y'all today. So I thank you, and Kim, I thank you for putting up with my antics on a Saturday morning.
Anytime. Hey, the perfectionist in me understands. But this series was really, really powerful. So if you missed any of our sessions in January, check out Timeless Vision because that's where the
January?
Did I say January?
You said January, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you that's a part of that dyslexia. It is July. It's August now. I know that now because there's only one A No, there's April, but whatever. For July. If you missed any of those, the replays are in Timeless, correct?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
You
They
want to talk about Timeless Vision?
I will. I will. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. I got a whole bunch of things going on. Hold on.
I know the feeling.
All right, let me close that and I will pull up Timeless. So, Timeless Vision is a community that is created by me, T Weaver, and Kristen Dion of Digital Dreamworks. We created this community. It is a woman-based community. Um, and we are working with women through all different walks that are on this journey of just trying to figure it out. You know, in my intro, I usually say is trying to get out that stuck place, but that goes for us ladies too. You know, men like to say we know it all, but we don't know it all. So with Timeless Vision, we are catering to, you know, the stay-at-home moms, the creative entrepreneurs, the women that are in their parenthood journey, right? So someone like me that is just trying to figure out what momming and entrepreneurship and mindset and school lunch and all the things look like all at one time. Um, we are also dealing with our lovely mature ladies who of course have their stories and tales that they dive into. But just to give you a little snippet of a little peek into Timeless, we have been busy updating since we are in August, and this is one of the things one of our founders, T, she actually just created. So let me go ahead. I'm gonna have to switch my audio around real quick so we can hear it. Sure, I am sharing my sound. Okay, sweetie. All right, let me know if you can hear it.
Welcome to Timeless Vision. The meaning
Yes.
of vision is visionaries inspiring strength, harmony, upliftment, and new beginnings. A sanctuary for stay at home moms, women 35 plus, and creative solopreneurs ready to stop shrinking and start building. Here, we shift mindsets, spark creativity, teach with intention, and balance it all with grace. At the same time, we will be teaching AI as a powerful resource with GPTs and generators made with emergent or Canva code. From guided affirmations and legacy building strategies to soulful accountability and digital confidence, this is where your journey turns powerful. This ain't just a group, it's a movement, a safe space to evolve, lead, heal, and profit with purpose. Pull up a chair. Your seat at the table is waiting.
Okay, can't hear you, Michelle. You're muted. You're muted.
And I'm getting attacked with a construction hat right this second. Um, but okay, so with the construction hat on and all, that in a nutshell is Timeless Vision. So I want to thank you all for taking the time joining us this morning to enjoy our midweek mindset take two. And for the replay, this will be in Timeless. So look forward to seeing you guys there. Have a great one, everybody. Bye. Yeah.